Hey everyone, my name is Ray and this is going to be the first episode ever of Ray Coding. Today I'd like to start this series off with something special and fun. I'm going to be making a fake virus to troll people with. Its purpose will be to mess with friends or family and drive them absolutely insane when their computer just starts taking random actions on its own and sending them creepy messages on the way. This is going to be fairly easy to make, and will not in any way cause harm to the victim's computer. However, to be on the safe side, I highly recommend making sure using this will not be against any laws where you're from. Remember, even if it causes no harm, you'll still be executing it on the victim's computer without their permission for pranking purposes. Guys, this series is new and it's my first time ever trying something like this, so if you do like it, please remember to press that like button and subscribe. It will really help boost my morale and push me into creating more content like this in the future. With that being said, let's get right into it. I'll be writing my program in C# and I'm going to be using Microsoft Visual Studio as my IDE. I'll start off by creating a new C# project of the type Windows Forms application. You will need to pick a name for your project. As for mine, I'm going to be going with definitely not a virus, and I'll go ahead and press the OK button to create my project. Once your project has been created, you will see the main form of your application. For obvious reasons, we'll need that form to be invisible to the user. I'll start off by setting the form's text, then I'm going to be setting up a few stealthy options, such as setting both the show icon and showing taskbar to false, as well as setting the opacity property to 0%, and making my form a little bit smaller, just for good measure. Now I'm going to double click the small part remaining of my form to access the form1 load function. I don't need it right now, but I will in the future. Right now, all I need to do is add a bunch of functions that will define the activities my program will be doing to mess with the user. There's a bunch of ideas that I have in mind. We will be displaying random text messages to the user in message boxes that will contain anything of our choice. We will be opening applications randomly, such as Notepad and Paint, etc. We will be sending random keystrokes to make it look like the computer is running on its own. And finally, we're going to display images of our choice randomly to the user. There's a lot of other ideas that you could implement if you wish. Anything funny and acceptable gets the job done, such as playing creepy sounds, moving the victim's cursor, or if you consider it acceptable, even creating jump scares. Let's start off with displaying message boxes. I'll write down a function and call it show a message. I'll need a random variable to generate a random number that I will use to choose the message. We will also need an array to fill with messages. As you can see, I've filled my array with a bunch of random lines that I will be using to display to the user. We'll also need a string to contain the chosen message, and we will set a value to it from the array with a randomly generated array index. In our case, from 0 to the length of the messages. Finally, we will be displaying the message of choice in the message box. Other options can be added later, such as a message title, message buttons, and any message icon of choice. Now, for testing purposes, I'm going to put that function in the form load function so that it is the first thing done once the form loads. This way, we can make sure this function is working properly and see its result. Alright then, looks like it's working just fine. As for our next function, we're going to need something that can load a random application. In order to do that, I'm going to write a function right now and call it open an app. It's very similar to the last one. A string array with a list of application paths, a string to store the randomly chosen application, and a function to run it. we're going to need to use system.diagnostics for this one. After including it, we can use a process.start to run our selected application. Now, like last time, we're just going to place the function in our form load function just to test out its results and make sure it's working. Our next function will need to write some keystrokes, as in simulate a typing keyboard. This is going to be done just like the previous functions with both an array and a chosen text string. Only this time, we will be using the sendKeys.send function to send our keystrokes away. Finally, we need a function to open random images. Before we go through with this one, we need to load the desired images into our project. To do this, go to the Solution Explorer to your right and double-click Properties. In Properties, select Resources and click the small arrow icon next to the Add Resource to add an existing file. Choose all the images you desire and make sure to import them into your project. You can double check and make sure these images have been imported correctly by checking the Resources folder in your Solution Explorer. The next thing we'll need to do is write down a function to open these images. I'll be calling that Open an Image. This one is slightly different. We'll need an array of images this time, not strings, and another variable to hold the image of our choice. Once we've randomly selected an image, we will need to save it first before we can run it. I'm saving it to the path img.jpg, which means it will be saved in the same folder as my executable application. Once it has been saved, we can open it just like we've opened other applications earlier using process.start. Now we'll need to create a timer which will indicate how often an action is taken. Select Toolbox, then Components, then double-click the Timer tool. I'll rename it to Random Event Timer and make sure it is enabled and has an interval of 15,000 milliseconds, which means that every 15 seconds, one of the functions we created is going to be called. Feel free to modify that number to suit your needs. However, be careful, as an extremely low interval is guaranteed to mess things up and possibly cause your computer to freeze or the application to crash. The last thing we'll need to do is to make sure the timer selects a random operation to perform every 15 seconds. We'll set a random integer to determine the operation to be performed. I'm letting my random number exceed the number of functions I have to give it the chance to pass intervals with no action taken. I'm also using a switch statement to handle the function selection based on the random number selected. As a final step as well, I'm making a global random variable, R, and letting it handle all the random variables I've had created earlier. This will ensure the random number is only seeded once at the form load and guarantee that it works properly. This is pretty much it. We now have a fake virus with custom messages and images of our choice. Have fun pranking your friends with it, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Cheers and enjoy the rest of your day.